This is Wendy Ann, and I'd like to do a quick tutorial on the Purl bind-off attaching the cast-on edge technique that is mentioned in my free pattern download for an infant winter hood. So you see here, this hood is done in one large rectangle, and then it's folded and quickly sewn up together very simply to create a nice thick double layer of fabric. And to do this technique, you create a rectangle that, because you do garter stitch and then stockinette stitch, you have a difference in the size of the fabric, even though it's the same number of stitches cast on as you continue knitting throughout the whole piece, because this offers just a different type of fabric when you knit every row compared to when you're knitting on one side and purling on the other. So in order to correct the difference in the two sides, rather than gathering these stitches and pulling them close together and sewing on, I had the idea to simply take your live stitches, and for each stitch on the live stitch side, you pick up one stitch from the cast on edge side and then work the two of those stitches together. I call it the Purl bind off attaching the cast on row, where here are my live stitches, and I've picked up one stitch from the cast on row, and I'm going to work those two together as purled two together. I'm going to pick up another stitch from the cast on row, add it to the live needle, the live stitches on the needle, and purl them together. And when I do that, that'll give me two stitches that have been purled two together. Then I will take one of those and place it over the top of the second stitch to bind it off, so that the resulting stitches are the live stitches, the cast on edge stitches, and they make a nice neat seam that it matches the large infant winter hood. I just cast on 20 stitches. I worked a garter stitch and then reverse stockinette. I did one row of eyelets just to kind of show you how in the pattern there's an optional eyelet pattern, to give you an idea. So now here's my live stitches. How do I connect these to this? You do have a bit of yarn from your cast on edge. Don't worry about that, you're not using that. You're using the same yarn that you've been working these live stitches back and forth. Alright. So now I would be ready, if I was just doing stockinette, to just continue my row purling. I'm going to take the right sides, place them together, and I'm going to take this first stitch from my cast on row. I'm going to slide it onto the needle. Then I will purl them together. And pull them both off. And then I will take the next stitch from the cast on row and I will add it to the needle. I will purl the one live stitch with the one stitch from the cast on edge, or my next working stitch, live stitch, with the stitch from the cast on row, and I will pull it off the needle. Now I've just gotten two stitches that were purled two together, purl two together. Now my third step is to bind off. So I just take like a normal bind off and slide that one over the top and off the needle. I'm now going to take my third stitch from the cast on row, put it onto my knitting needle that has the live stitches I've been working on in stockinette stitch. I'm going to purl them together pull it off the needle, and I want to bind it off. So I'm going to bind that off. And again, we're going to take the next live stitch from the cast on row, put it on the needle with the live stitches, purl the two of them together, pull it off, and then we do our simple regular bind off. And remember, keep your bind off stitches not too tight. You don't want it to pull too much. So I'm just going to give it a little tug. And that's it for this part. So I really hope that helps. I'm thankful that I got the question.